surprise live stream Friday morning, day before competition here in Cape Town. And to everyone competing tomorrow around the country, all of the best. Enjoy. Take it as it comes. Celebrate the wins, mourn the losses, as they say. But don't get in your head too much. So, yeah. If you missed the point of what I did this morning, then you weren't at the various venues over the last few months, maybe years, maybe your entire life. But yeah, it's pretty frustrating when people say something and then completely mislead you and do the exact opposite, isn't it? And that's kind of how I feel. So yeah, I don't know if you feel the same. I don't know if you've had experience, but as some of you have come to know, we're going to be discussing that in length and in depth as of 1 October. There is going to be no filter, completely raw, completely transparent. Not that I haven't been, but I think I've been holding back in the raw department and the exposing department, if you want to call it that. You know. So there's another broadcast coming up at about 10 a.m. In fact, that will be at 10 a.m. But yeah, just to sort of highlight all the BS that we've had to endure. And if you missed last night's podcast, episode 10 of the Pitcast, then we kind of got into why everyone's on this whole Kilanisa Masapu trip. And I'm done making apologies. I'm certainly not going to apologize for other people. Things are going to get, as I mentioned, really raw. They're going to get real. Shit and fan is going to come into play a lot, because some of it's already hit that fan. And we'll just see how the cockroaches scatter. And I mean, there's been so much chatter and change, and for the sake of the sport, we need to try and figure out what is actually going on, what is clapping. But yeah, I just figured I would check in with you guys this morning, partly as an exercise to understand these metrics a little bit better from Google and YouTube, because I don't believe in them at all. And I've kind of expressed reasons here and there as to why. But let's just have a general chat. And if you want to join in, there's a link to the WhatsApp group down below. You can chat in the chat area here on YouTube on the right. You're more than welcome to leave comments, voice notes, video notes in the group. And we'll see where it goes from here. The whole point of this of everything here is just trying to understand this platform to maximize it for all of our benefit. I want to try and avoid using the terms that I have been using recently, because I don't want to sound like everyone else. And I don't want it to come across as if I want your support for all of these great things that can start to sound like everyone else's sort of spiel and appeal for support. I mean, if you like it, like it. If you don't like it, please give it a thumbs down. I'm really not too phased about how that affects the metrics and focusing on only the positive. I think the problem with everyone is they just do that, and then when they're disappointed, it's this massive mental drain and this cry for help and this moaning without reason. So, I mean, I'm going to take you through competition prep from very different angles because this year I've been in a different situation where I'm competing, but I'm indirectly competing. So I'm sitting passenger, if you will, in Gymkhana with the great Duncan Jeftis. And if you don't know who Duncan is, I mean, he owns one of the probably the most insanely prepped Mark II Golf race cars. I will honestly and truly say it's a race car that you've ever seen. And you know, people will overlook that because they're looking for the new and that automatic lifestyle. You know, we're talking about real races here. And I mean, if you don't know Duncan, Duncan has, I don't know what to call it without coming across rude, but you know, a disability for the lack of a better word, a challenge in that he has either an undeveloped limb. I'm not too sure the history there. That's something that's coming up in hopefully a deep dive discussion. And you know, he's only got use of his left arm. So it's quite interesting to watch the interaction between him and other competitors. And obviously, everyone knows Duncan. I mean, I had a silly comment by a competitor that, oh, yeah, he knows Duncan. I was like, that's not what I meant. But that just gives you an example of how out of touch people really are with reality and what's happening in the moment. You know, you can't make any comment without anyone just taking a dump down your throat or taking offense. And I just stand and look and, you know, it is what it is. I don't have time for silliness and for stupidity. But I mean, when it comes to competition prep, what should you be doing today, the day before? Well, the most important thing is, never mind the car. And this is something we're going to get into, and this is going to step on a lot of toes. And quite frankly, again, I don't care. It is what it is. But a lot of people focus on their vehicle and on, you know, final checks and leaving things to the last minute. And that's probably the worst thing to do in general, but the wrong place to start. I mean, today is all about relaxing. You know, if we want to think of ourselves as athletes, as I've said before, and that was mentioned by Harry from Gas Magazine at a competition in 2022. Bragging rights, if I remember correctly. That was one of my first visits to Desi Raceway. You know, I drove there blindly, only to be questioned about what all of this is, what it means, either due to, you know, a lack of understanding or skepticism or whatever it was. I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't care. Again, there's no point in me thinking too deeply and too strongly and too long about a matter that is beyond my control. But it's interesting to note and be aware of it when you come into contact with individuals. So, you know, I didn't make that statement. You know, that's a statement that Harry made about us seeing ourselves as athletes, and I agree with that completely. So, what would an athlete be doing today? Most certainly not indulging in things that could hamper their ability on competition day. I think that's overlooked. And you know, we don't look to that. We don't start there. We focus on, yeah, no, I need more power. You know, let me fit a turbo. Let me fit some nitrous. Let me change something to gain those extra kilowatts. But all honesty, you don't need all the power in the world. You just need lightness for quickness. And that automatically translates into fastness, speed. But in the pursuit of that, we'll rather go and order new cams and spend all this money that some of us possibly don't have, instead of just looking at ourselves and not, day before competition going on a crash diet. These things in preparation need to happen well before. It can start today, but don't expect to see much, super significant improvement tomorrow. You may see a little bit of improvement by not drinking tonight, indulging in some festivities, if you will. And I've seen that on the drag scene. To my surprise and shock, that the competition barely started or hasn't even started, and we're having a jaw. And then tomorrow we make excuses. And you've heard it before. I didn't have a good day. The car was a problem. But, the guys just don't look at themselves. They're actually the problem. Guys and girls. Probably more so guys than girls, to be honest. So, we prep for competition, but we overlook ourselves as part of the prep. We are the ones, after all, controlling the vehicle. It's not remote control drag racing or remote control gymkhana or, RC drifting in a 1-to-1 scale. And I'm sure that's possible. We've seen it on TV, great, and how viable it is I suppose, depending on what it is we want. I mean, we're moving to this point where people have just lost touch with what the whole point of motorsport is, of racing, never mind drag racing. So what would you do for competition prep if you owned a BMW? I don't know. Go about your day, have some samosas, buy a buck of acne because it's acne Fridays, get some sisters, have a chip roll, eat some lasagna, go out tonight, have a glass of wine, wake up tomorrow, get in your car and put it on launch control. Whoop-de-doo. I wouldn't consider that an athlete. Now, you may get some who take that seriously. They prep their car, fair. They take care of themselves. They are relaxing today, drinking water, they're eating a somewhat healthy diet. They're going to go to bed early tonight. So, that's what today holds for me. I mean, some of you may know, obviously, for me, Mondays and Fridays is generally part of my extended weekend, given all the travels that I've had around the country. Leaving Cape Town Thursday morning, arriving back Tuesday night, if not Wednesday morning. So for me, today is about just taking it easy. All I'm doing is playing a supportive role, if that, because ideally, as the driver in this competition, Duncan should have studied the course as I have. And believe you me, it's an interesting course for tomorrow, but it's actually 2 courses, dual gymkhana. So if you are keen to see it, I'll put up a poll on the WhatsApp channel. Let me know, and I will let you have a glance at what it is that awaits us. Because my role as navigator for this year is, from possibly Duncan's perspective and the event's perspective, is just to be a guide, or to be a ballast, or to be a little bit of a factor that could sway the results due to poor or good instruction or reminder of where to go next, what to do. Because there's a lot of people that speak, and it's generally the keyboard ninjas that use that term. And I realize now in saying that I'm using that term, but I'm using it to convey a point that they have the biggest mouths, they have a lot to say, but they cannot back it up. Now, recently I found myself actually enjoying stirring the pot because of all of these wonderful geniuses. So I'm keen to see if some of these ninjas come creeping out of the boards, you know, in their outfits, these little brown cockroaches. And I'm keen to see how everything I say is interpreted, because that's going to be a laugh. But I was sitting here this morning and checking up on my mails and going through my daily admin routine. And I thought to myself, let me just try this as an exercise and see what's happening, because the YouTube stats just make no sense to me. It's a complete contradiction to what I see in reality. And the idea here is just to find the sweet spots, So that's why the topic, it's pretty much just a topic in my opinion. I'm keen to see and find out how others went about their day to day in preparation for tomorrow. How some of them were affected positively and negatively in the challenges in today, in maybe overcoming matters that affects their tomorrow. And this will obviously expand into other things, which I'll divulge down the line. But it's just interesting to note, what is everyone doing today to prepare for tomorrow, to be considered an athlete? Did they have a masala steak sandwich for breakfast, and they're going to have a Vienna bologna Gatsby for lunch, and be uncomfortable and moody and just out of the right mindset for tomorrow? And we'll see once the day is over what happens there. My only challenge today is trying to find a helmet, which I think I have, because I've noticed that we may need some form of head safety tomorrow, given the event highlight, or the event being highlighted. So yeah, that's just another example of the Tate Morse that we've been going through, to be fair. Let's do things the right way because we have spotlight on us, and then every other time let's just do what we want. But yeah, competition prep. I mean, by today, your race car should be ready. You shouldn't even have to be checking anything. About the only thing you should be checking is if there's anything under your car. And if you are only checking that today, you've got bigger problems. Because tomorrow's a non-sanctioned event for which I've been dragged through the coals for promoting. Not necessarily this specific event, but most all of them. And you should have everything in place. I can imagine there are going to be guys tonight, even tomorrow morning, that are going to be rushing around looking for things. And that's what I kind of touched on when I spoke in previous episodes about just being ready, being race ready, and what that means, and what it means to me. I mean, you could be coming with a stock standard, well, in Cape Town that's a debatable term, but truly an off the floor vehicle that you want to come and play with. So what is there for you to check? You may not know what to do, but the track, and I say that loosely, you know, the race area, the competition space, whether that be on the street or the track, is a very different animal, and it needs to be treated very differently. You know, you're going to obviously prepare yourself mentally as well, not just physically. And it's pointless worrying and stressing about the day. I think that's one of the key things to prepare yourself for competition. Things that you can't control. There's no point in losing your nerve about it. There's no point in stressing about it. There's no point in worrying, because all you're going to do, like someone like me, is end up making yourself sick. So, I mean, for me, since turning 30, I've been a gout sufferer. Now, I don't expect any sympathy because it's really of my own doing. So it's not like it's an unfortunate disease or condition that, warrants any sympathy. But no one really understands what it is. I mean, me realizing this morning that, hey, I need to actually review these course layouts so I can understand how it's going to impact on our day tomorrow, could actually cause me gout. And I think actually it has, so I need to go and just take preventative measures for that. So I'm going to be high as a kite today, hopefully not tomorrow, but I'm going to be suffering the after effects of that. So, am I going to be race ready? Probably not. Probably not. But thankfully, we're just going out to enjoy ourselves. And that's very hard for me, I have to admit, because I'm very competitive. If you've ever come up against me, you will realize that. And I can be competitive to the point where the soft-hearted and the meek and mild just can't deal. And it's generally these that are the loudest when they are successful, but will moan likewise the loudest when they aren't. I just have one knob, and that's all out assault competitively. There's a saying that I saw many years ago and I live by it: go big or go home. And that's how I approach everything that I do. I may stumble, I may appear cautious. That's because I'm thinking of the best way to avoid having to redo something, because that's one of the things I hate. So, I mean, for me, when it came to prepping my car for the track, it involved 2 to 3 weeks prior of sitting and planning and thinking and deciding what is it that I want to achieve from that day. I've made changes or I haven't made changes. Are there changes I can make? And back then, my thoughts as well weren't aimed at me. Dom, maybe lose some weight here. I mean, I've always been a big guy. I've always been a heavy guy. And funnily enough, with one of the projects I have coming up, I've been trying to gain weight and I've been struggling to gain weight, which is a bit of a worry. But I also haven't been eating low nutrition crap. Like your mainstream takeaways. And I don't need to mention them. We all know who they are. And one day I probably will start mentioning them, and then I may just receive a cease and desist notice in the mail. Whoop-de-doo. But I've actively been trying to gain weight so that I can start my journey, and this time publicly, and demonstrate to everyone what I've been saying, that some have listened to and others have moaned about, and that's to be expected, but just aiming to shut those that are moaning the hell up. So, you know, this old project, and it's probably always going to come back to the project, this initiative, this plan of upliftment and development, which is centered around education. Everything will come back to that. And like I said, most recently, focusing on myself, on oneself, to improve one's standing or ranking or position within sport or recreation, or generally anything in life. I mean, I've found a way that works for me, and I'm not going to advocate for it and only see it and overlook every other option out there. But I will provide the information so that others can learn, get some insight, the information, be informed, be educated, uplift themselves. Just feel empowered. And if it works for them, great. But I'm going to say, like I have said before, don't just listen to what I say and take it as gospel. Get different opinions, find contradictory opinions, get other people's opinion, but hear their argument and the merit in their argument, and see what works for you, and do that. But I find too often people, and again, people are going to take offense to this, but they're half-assed in their approach. I've met so many people over the years where a comment is made and I say, oh yeah, I'm doing this. Oh yeah, I'm also doing this. And then you listen to what they say and you just tell yourself, I need to get away. Like now, I need to walk away. Without appearing rude, because it's complete BS coming out of their mouth. And it's a case of people just, having to say something instead of actually having something to say. I've made that statement before, and that's something that we're going to unpack down the line with all these changes made on the 1st of October. And yeah, but competition prep. I don't think many of us actually have a concept of that, because our sport isn't truly professional. And a lot of people get confused when that term is used, and professional literally means you're not paid to do it. It doesn't mean you are good at what you're doing. It doesn't mean you have a certain level of excellence above or within an elite group of the best. It just means you're paid to do it. So, we have a lot of work to do to get that to a point where we can actually see and realize true development. I mean, I've met so many guys and interacted with so many people that have race cars. Inevitably, it's most likely their daily as well, or a semi-daily. They've got a backup that they can use if they don't want to use this car and break it because there's a big race coming up. But I can guarantee you that there's not much thought gone into it. And if there is some thought in it, it needs a whole lot of work. And from my experience, people take offense without actually listening, digesting, and understanding where it's coming from, and then deciding, would I be offended, or is this making logical sense? They just automatically get triggered, and that might be a demographic issue, that might be a cultural issue, who knows. And again, honestly don't care because it's not affecting me. But, you know, this term hopefully becomes a focal point within these disciplines, within our sport. It's one of the things that I really hope for. And hopefully that enables us to be better versions of ourselves as athletes and in general, really. Because, I mean, it comes down to that simple statement and cliche, failing to plan is planning to fail. And if you look at the other statement I made the other day, which was luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And if you really listen to that, what preparations are in place for tomorrow? Because tomorrow is the opportunity. I mean, I don't know what's transpired because I have made it a point not to watch or listen or engage or discuss matters that I feel are not in conflict, but are attempts by some who are trying to avoid the attention, and all they're doing is to create a distraction, because that is not going to give me the deniability to say, well, I never watched that, so I don't know, and therefore this is a true account, and whatever that is, let's go and watch it now. So it gives me the ability to say conclusively, without committing perjury, that I don't know what's going on there, and I don't need to know. It's got nothing to do with me. That's my choice. I have that ability. I have that willpower and that strength to say, well, so what? What I'm doing is, as far as I'm concerned, what no one else has done or is doing. This isn't plagiarism of any kind. This isn't me copying. To whatever extent, if people want to deny plagiarism, this is just me putting what's in my head on the internet or the paper of the internet in ink, saying, there you go. Who wants to fight now? And I can easily go follow the correct routes and avenues and legal proceedings and put down in paper, I, so and so and so, was not aware of this, and can state without any other reason that, what I'm saying is true to what this initiative is about and to what the aims are and the end goals, and to who I am. Bottom line. So quite frankly, whatever these people want to say and do, they must just do it. And let's see what happens. And that's an unfortunate thing, because if you must look back in the last, as far as I can remember, but most memorably the last few years, it's been pretty gruesome and ugly for those against me and against others, unjustly so. So, you know what? People must do what they want to do. I'm not out here to look for favor. I'm not out here to ingratiate myself at all. I'm out here for the greater good. So my prep, we'll see how it translates into competition tomorrow. Thankfully, there's not much I need to do. Tomorrow I'll probably take more of an hands-on role I've been fortunate enough to actually, never mind sitting in the vehicle that I'm competing in with Duncan, but to be fortunate enough to be trusted to actually work on the vehicle in the small ways that I have, fixing a little water leak, thinking up of a way to clamp a hose differently. That's my advantage. That's always been my advantage in life. I don't need to be a super tuner, super mechanic, you know, someone that holds someone else's life in their hands if they decide that they are going to an event or not. I just need to be me. Take a step back, look at the situation, and go, guys, if we do it this way, it'll just make it easier for all of us. But it's been really an honor to have the opportunity to even just touch that engine bay, even look at that engine bay. I haven't taken the time to actually sit back and look at it because it's familiar to me. But to know that it was one of the first done within the community, if not the first, for me that is something really special. And I mean, I agree with Duncan, there's no amount of money that could buy that. And if you haven't seen this car in action, you have no idea what you've missed over the years. And I'm very sure we'll see it for many more years to come. And hopefully, I've been kind of stalling in getting in the seat myself because I'm happy just to observe. As I've said, ek observe maar net. Ek hou van my plat. Because I don't need to prove anything to anyone. Tomorrow I get out there and then I take everyone's duck, as they say, and then what? Then everyone's quiet. And then, what have I actually done except waste my own time? And I can guarantee you, there is no one that is capable of going head to head with me in competition. No one. And that is going to be my challenge for next year. So if you want to come, bring. I'm making that openly available. But if you want to race, we're going to race for real. Not whatever the hell has been happening the last 3 years. If you want to compete, we're going to compete for real. And if you win, enjoy the win. Take my hand. Be humble. Don't be a douche. There's a lot of things that we need to change for the better in the sport and in some of the disciplines. There's a lot of people we need to rid ourselves and the sport of. There's a lot of them that try and scramble for interviews and to put themselves at the center. There's a lot of them that maybe after I said what I said and what I'm about to say now, they'll change their words consciously, and use we and us instead of me and I, especially when there are teams involved and behind the scenes and groups of people that are contributing to the successes of what they are hoping for. But this morning was more about just, let's see what happens. I want to get stats, because that's part of me trying to understand this monster of ridiculousness that is YouTube. And I'm not interested in watching content about, gimmicks. Try this, do this, and this works. I live in the real world. And to see it grow is all that's needed by me. Its virility will depend on the junctures I take and the changes I make. And it does not need to depend on anyone else, because when that happens, individuals lose sight of things. So I'm keen to see who takes that the wrong way. I've been appreciative of the help, but I maintain that your help is requested or needed when requested. If I'm not asking for help, then, there's no need to offer, especially if it's conditional, which I find has been the case for many years. People will help you with the expectation of something, whether that may be help in return, whether that may be a favor, and I can't stand for that at all. And I'm hopeful that that's not the case. But I've seen it. I may not mention it. Maar die foto is gevat, as they say. And we'll come to realize what I mean by what I've said up to date in every single broadcast since this channel started. We'll see those statements realized. And sometimes people take offense to that, and again I'm going to say, if you take offense, there's most likely truth in what I'm saying, and that's all I'm after. Nothing else matters. So I mean, can I continue with my competition prep today? For sure. There's not much for me to do except some homework. So I hope if you're competing tomorrow, whether it be drags, gymkhana, drifting, spinning, that you've already done the work that you needed to do. As they say, or as they've said to me in my school years, by the time the date arrives, the die should be cast. So if you haven't prepared for tomorrow, or this weekend, because there's events on the 6th as well, take some time out for yourself, and think about it, what it is that you want to achieve out of this, what do you want out of all of it, and put the steps in place. And if you don't know, ask. That's what I can't seem to understand about people. They'll suffer in silence instead of just asking because it appears as if they're vulnerable. So if that's the case, then don't ask publicly. You've got to at least have someone that you can trust. And if you don't, then I feel really sorry for you as a person. But I mean, that's always been the key to my prep in general, not just competition, to my success. I don't know everything. I know a lot, but I don't know everything. So ask. And if the response to your question is laughter, walk away, go ask someone else. Don't entertain it. Don't stand for it. I mean, where would I be if I had to listen to people or, accept the negativity? We wouldn't be 1,720 something subscribers deep 2 years, 3 years down the line. Seeing and realizing the positive change and the progress. It might not be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 80, 100, 200, 300,000. But yesterday for me was proof of, the change. With the random people coming up to me, hey, I heard someone mention that you said something about racing and SK racing, and then they said that, you might be the guy that's involved with the carnival worldwide, and are you that guy? And yeah, I love your statuses was the one thing that got me. I don't do it for the accolades and the acknowledgement. I just am putting down in ink what's in my mind. And if people hate me for it, so what? If people love me for it, so what, to be honest? It's not for you. It's not to try and ingratiate myself unto you. It's just how it is. There's 8 billion of us in this world. There's 65 million in South Africa. If we're going to worry about what the next person thinks and says, we're never going to enjoy what we have the opportunity to enjoy. But with that in mind, let's just understand that there's a lot of people that can't enjoy along with us. So let's see what tomorrow holds. That's all I'm saying. And here's to your successful competition prep today, which should literally just take the form of relaxing, doing as little as possible, hydrating, eating well, eating nutritious foods, preparing yourself physically and mentally for tomorrow, come what may. The tool that you are using should be prepared. If it isn't, you are going to struggle. But try. Thank you for tuning in. If you like it, you are more than welcome to like it. If you don't like it, you are more than welcome to not like it. And if you do want to subscribe, please do. If you don't, you are more than welcome not to. This is very much a test in general. And hopefully I see some of you at the track tomorrow. And hopefully more of you at 10 o'clock. Cheers, guys. Till then.